Hello everyone and welcome to this recording in which I'm going to be speaking about this upcoming new moon taking place in the sign of Libra around the 25th of September, so 25th or 26th depending on where you are on the planet, and it's taking place at 2 degrees and 48 minutes, 49 minutes of the sign of Libra. Now, this new moon is really important for the fact that it is the first new moon after the Libra equinox, so the autumn equinox in my hemisphere, and that is really relevant karmically because Libra, new partnerships, but also choices that we need to make in our lives that will change the landscapes of our partnerships, but also in the same time, what is justice? What is our new sense of justice? Because the world is changing, the legislations everywhere are changing. Certain legal cases, trials, legislative issues are being solved everywhere in the world, but especially internationally, the likes of which never existed before. So these are making history. So you can imagine our sense of justice, both individually and collectively, is also invited for an upgrade, but an upgrade based on a retrospective look, if that makes sense. Because one of the major aspects that this new moon holds is an opposition to Jupiter. Jupiter is the planet which has to do with justice, sense of justice, especially that it is in the sign of Aries. So what does justice, equity, fairness, divine justice even, karmic justice even mean to us personally? Retrograde based on a lot of things that we achieved or we didn't achieve, or we trial and error, basically. Aries, the head, where our heads led us at the spur of the moment. But this retrograde, so it's a retrospective of the past, and that past can mean in the larger sense. That past, Jupiter is nearing Pisces, so for a few people it can even mean past lives, but for most people it means the recent past, so the past 3 or 4 years, because Jupiter made a lot of important transits. Transited Sagittarius, its ruling sign, so what kind of justice means. Then Capricorn, earthly justice, how divine justice can exist in the world. Then Aquarius, collective justice, the trademarks of Aquarius, freedom, fraternity, equity, or something like that. So social justice, if that makes sense. And then Pisces, karmic justice. What does, not just necessarily karmic justice, spiritual, deep moral, soul level justice mean to us personally and collectively? And then Aries, that's very, very personal. That's just us. That is just the present us, but also that which we're birthing right now. Part of our identity even. And that opposing this new moon, so it's also based on philosophy, on faith, on our worldview as it is in the present moment, based upon everything that we have learned the past couple of years. In a nutshell. So, what I said is kind of philosophical, because you might be saying, well, okay, Zan, but what does this mean in my personal life? But it means a great deal, because a new moon can manifest over the course of the next 6 months, so to speak. But if you're just speaking about the next 3 months karmic period, well, if you have belief systems that are even just a little bit different, a little bit more optimistic, a little bit more compassionate, a little bit more, how should I say, even Saturnian, where you don't take any prisoners anymore, you don't make compromises, You know, if certain ideals don't match, then it's not a match and it's no worth trying. Even small things like that are so important in very, very many things. So this is why, wait for it. Because your worldview, your perception of what life is and what your role or humanity's role in the world is, what even the world is in nature, any change to that, any upgrade, any fortification to that will definitely influence your partnerships in the coming at least 3 months. But also in opposition to Jupiter, maybe it is you who will need to surrender certain elements of your worldview, of your faith, of your sense of justice, of your goals, ambitions, that which you're fighting for right now, in order to balance out other areas of your life. This new moon can represent, for example, a very classical manifestation of this, a new partner. Let's say not necessarily romantic partner, another type of partner, a colleague, a friend, a neighbor, someone who you get to know, and they leave a very good influence on you. Why? Because let's not forget, Mercury is in the vicinity. Venus, the ruling planet of Libra, the ruling planet of the new moon, is also in the vicinity. An outer side conjunction, if you will, necessarily. But there means there, so Venus is about values. Venus is about in Virgo, very practical things like values translated to numbers. You know, where I stand materially, or what my chances are based on my material situation, or my resources, how much I can work, my time, my availability. All of that is Venus in Virgo because she's evaluating her chances. She and Mercury do hold a trine with Pluto. So that's empowerment, that's inner empowerment, that's where you're really, really ready to make a step. For example, get your power back, quit a job. And you're, of course, examining how you're going to survive after you quit. But for some people, this Plutonian empowerment is where they're ready to quit. As in, yeah, even if it's a bit of a leap of faith, or even if it's a bit of a moment of courage and perhaps a tiny nuance of enough is enough, rebellion, ultimately, you're on a square Saturn, even like that, chances are this Plutonian empowerment can make the choice pretty permanent, like there's no going back. But this trine to Pluto is not just your own empowerment, but a plan B. Choices, availability, help, can do, will do, have already done so much. So this is physical grounding. And a new moon born with that energy next to it, well, it is kind of rational, cerebral, where the brain, the ration, the coldness of logic, Mercury meets the heart, Venus. And this new moon in Libra, so the moon, the emotional configuration, the sun, our identity, and in Libra in fall, so not as ego-centered, which is a big plus ultimately. And also another element to this is an opposition that Venus and Mercury hold with Neptune here. How how strong of a grip does an illusion, a false ideal, an old habit, a custom hold on us truly? In other words, how much of an influence does the divine source, inspiration, the benevolence, the Christ consciousness within our souls hold on us? We'll see. Ultimately, because our partnerships might reflect this. And hence why some partnerships are going to change and transform Pluto trine. Maybe this new moon doesn't necessarily mean a totally new partnership, a new person. It means an existing partnership took to a new level, or a rebirth, Pluto, of an existing partnership, a zero moment, or it can be a change within a partnership, an empowering change. That is also pretty new, and that can be opposing Jupiter, as in doing things a different way than we have ever done before. Jupiter brings the new. Jupiter challenges with the new. So the new moon has to kind of comply with Jupiter. So this Libra new moon is very transformative, and it can take on quite a lot of shapes and forms, so to speak. So that's why maybe the element of new is woven into something already existing, but for other people it can be new, but the new brings a lot of elements outside your comfort zone, so it's that kind of new. Now, of course, this can mean where only the choice and the decision is born at this time. Yet, let's look at another aspect of this new moon, a more deeper spiritual aspect, and what the energy of it might be telling us. So I'm looking at the Sabian symbol of this 2 degrees and 48 minutes, so 3 degrees of Libra, which is the dawn of a new day, reveals everything changed. How profound, how beautiful, how Jupiterian even. And Jupiter opposes this. So Jupiter expands the new. The new is rushing in, so much so that it may bother, so much so that it may be a cold shower, so much so that it may feel way overwhelming. How did this happen? But this is where sorry, we also have an input, that Pluto of our own power, so we can really make this work, but balance harmony, not to allow it to overwhelm us, not to allow the new to crush us, to frighten us, to scare us, to intimidate us, might be a really good approach to this. And patience and diligence is also a must, because Saturn square Uranus. There might be a lot of other disruption that you need to solve simultaneously. But we also have a really good aspect where that Mars trines Saturn. Gratification, reward, your work paying off, effort paying off, choice paying off, being brave paying off, listening to the empowered, right, rational, sane, good-willed advice pays off, so something pays off. Or you get somewhere, or your relationships get where, to somewhere, your status quo. This is a pretty triumphant aspect, because it's air energy. So that's the mind, that's the information of who you are and what you do. If the information upgrades, well, numbers will upgrade, concrete things will upgrade, or you receive help, you give help, your intellectual work, something that you share online, something that you do, a truth that you speak, you teach something, anything Saturnian and Gemini-like together is greatly empowered and greatly supported. This can also mean instant gratification in some senses, because you're in a square Saturn. Usually it's put in the work and then you'll get the reward when it's time. But with Uranus in the picture, it might come instantaneously sometimes. Sorry. So let's go back to the Sabian symbol, because the dawn of a new day reveals that everything changed. Indeed it has. 2020. This Pluto trine can also speak about how much Capricorn, the energy, the ether of Capricorn has changed from 2020 onwards. The material side and the material, physical, earthly, mundane expression of Capricorn is like a domino following the ether. But this might tell us how much Capricorn has truly transformed. And this can be a rebirth moment, something that has collapsed in 2020, following 2020, Saturn, Pluto, Ceres, Sun, Mercury conjunction at that 22 or 21 degrees of Capricorn, the world changing energy. That's which happens every 500 something years. And that shook our earth, the earth, yeah, our world, ethereally, first of all. Ethereally, everything is different. In faith, in spirit, the very structures of the basically soul matrix of the planet and of our reality is different, because that's how powerful Capricorn is. So you can imagine that the earthly is already changing very, very quickly. And this might be such a moment reminding of us of how powerful we are in the present, because how powerful we are in the future when the ether already has shape and form in matter, so to speak. This is more like an alchemical nuance of this new moon. And why the dawn? The dawn is not yet, when everything is light, everything is daytime. The dawn is just the dawn, just the promise. So you can imagine that this brings something very revolutionary, very new. The eclipses following this new moon, there is going to be another full moon in Aries, but then you can imagine new moon in Scorpio is going to be an eclipse, a solar eclipse, a not very fate changing one, but it still is. The total lunar eclipse following that, now that's where it gets serious. That's where it's really, really serious for everyone. So this new moon can give us so much to cope, so much to strengthen our defenses, to consolidate truly blessed and, I don't know, useful, practical partnerships, alliances based on a common ideal in our lives, to give us everything that we need if times may be challenging and hard in the eclipse season. Because the lunar eclipse is hand in hand with Uranus. So something happens. Some, of course, upgrade for the future, quantum leap, but it's a crisis, it's still a crisis. Because usually a crisis represents quantum leap for everything. And also this Venus conjunct Mercury opposing Neptune energy. Again, what is healthy faith to us? What is healthy faith in the world stage, on the world stage internationally? Because you can imagine that this Jupiter opposing the new moon will severely challenge certain new elements legally that people do not agree with. New and futuristic, but everything has a limit. So that which is absurd already, too much liberty in such a way where human dignity is eclipsed by liberty, is a legislation and a world people would not like to live in. So this is where certain liberties are going to be erased, but not by abuse of power. People are going to demand it, that let's put a halt, because everything has limits. And Libra can be inclusive of everything, as in, for example, a certain duality which is inanimate. So what is gender? So if we make something out of gender which defeats the very terminology and divine essence of it, well then shouldn't we kind of think that gender, if we change the ether of it, the universe is not going to be very pleasantly surprised if you. So this is just an example. What is gender in legislation? Where are the limits? Where is the delimitation? Where is the definition? But anything, race, and any other stuff is inclusive of this, because Libra is everything that is debatable. There comes a moment when it has to be weighed, debated actually, on the scales of justice. Sorry, which is also kind of scales of morality, scales of what does the human collective agree with and what they do not agree with. So are going to be a lot of philosophical, scientific, and every kind of discussions on the world stage in media out there. And you can imagine that this Mercury retrograde, the upcoming Mars retrograde will be an important moment when everything is going to be discussed and debated about all of the things I said and much, much more, even that which is even outside of my imagination. And even, let's say, any astrologers outside of any astrologer's imagination. Because Uranus is very, very active, and Uranus likes to dish out that which is outside of our expectance, or you know what, you get what I mean, you know. So, and speaking about the devil, I said that the Sabian symbol of Uranus is 18-degree newly formed continent, but let's see that of Saturn. So for Saturn, it is a dove, because Saturn is at 19 degrees, so that's 20 degree. So a dove bearing a message, a white dove, so a divine message. If we put this hand in hand, a dawn, so something new, which brings a divine message of a continent, a newly formed continent. Now, of course, it's not physical that a continent is going to rise from the depths of the ocean, but the continent, politically, financially, value-wise, what is natural to humankind and what not, you can imagine that the continent is very, very relevant in that sense, and it can be born very, very quickly. And of course, I really hope that it doesn't mean that the seismic activity specific to Uranus continues, but that might be also a possibility, and especially around the eclipses. And 20 degrees of the sign of Saturn, the Sabian symbol, which I should be actually speaking about because Saturn is at 19 degrees. The square will perfect later on. So that is, oh yes, sorry, that is the white dove, the 20 degrees. But 90 degrees, because Saturn is retrograding back, and it will touch 18 degrees. And the Sabian symbol for that is a forest fire quenched. That is also very promising. A forest fire, symbolically, something that is burning socially. And let's say socially, not necessarily in my city, my community, my country, but let's say the whole of humanity. What is socially burning? Well, financial issues, legal issues, Mercury retrograde, religious issues, and this issues about severe mistrust and almost a developing hatred between centralized power and citizens. So these are the big themes out there, and these are gonna be one way or another be discussed and forest fire quenched as in a solution. But the thing is, Saturn is there. So if it would be on any other planet, I would leave it at this: problem solved. But sometimes Saturn solves the problem militaristically, as in freedom of speech prohibited, laying down the law and stuff like that. So let's hope that's not the case, but it might be at certain times possible, because this Mars will hold on and off the trine with Saturn in Aquarius, and on and off the square with Neptune in Pisces, which is the truth. Fight for the truth. So, anyway, this will also change the diplomatic relationships and balance on the world stage. How will it affect this war, ongoing war? How will it affect other diplomatic relationships? How will it affect the international economy? Because Venus is currency. Neptune is fuel, liquid fuel in Pisces. Pluto in Capricorn is fuel, any kind of fuel, and the power and the power of fuel. Mercury, the facts and calculations of even the past, of what happened in 2020 in this sense. Remember when fuel reached zero? Zero. And Venus. But Venus is going forward, as in Venus is not retrograde. Mercury is retrograde. So Venus and Mercury will meet, but like this. So just passing by. So Venus, the currency, what happens, what is revealed from the past, and the past gives birth to the future debt, national debt, what governments have done with the money, the loans, the World Bank. This is part of the diplomatic negotiations, and you can imagine that this is where maybe certain alliances are going to fall apart. There are going to be internal problems, especially in Europe, but everywhere in the world. So, because this is world diplomatic relations and the world stage, 0 degree of Libra, very, very, very cardinal energy, Jupiter cardinal energy, and Pluto is, well, that's not necessarily that kind of cardinal energy, but still, speaking in harmoniously with Mercury, news is gonna travel. The result of investigations and stuff like that is gonna travel. Mercury this autumn will head into Scorpio, investigation energy per se. So this is gonna be a big and important new moon, but one which is silent. So the seeds that we will plant of our own attitude and what we live and what we must make this our own. Because that's how it's gonna be big. It's not gonna be big as blessings come falling down from the sky. Just like no. Because this Jupiter, we need to have a lot of self-discipline. Because this Jupiter expands everything it touches. So yeah, forest fire quenched, but how? Let's hope that in the most diplomatic and fair way possible, and let's also hope that the diplomatic negotiations of fuel, gas, cryptocurrencies as well, what's allowed, what's not allowed, big changes in the artistic world, agriculture issues, so all of these are going to be part of this energy. Because new moon, how will we solve these issues, Libra? Let's decide. Let's talk about it. Let's weigh these. So I hope that this helped everyone. Thank you so much for listening. I'm wishing everyone a really, really blessed Libra full moon. And I really hope that it does bring a lot of romance in a lot of people's lives. Even if, well, romance might not be the best thing here, because Venus opposing Neptune, that's like a bit of a lie, a bit of illusion, bit of a self-deception. So it might be the opposite to that we need to tune down our fantasies to have a grip in reality. But at the same time, this... I didn't understand that. Sorry, my phone is kind of spying on me. of like life, disrupting my work. So anyway, this can mean where we can also add romance to where it lacks severely. So this is where we need to make something with this energy. And sometimes partnerships and love and romance, the stuff everyone wishes and dreams of, can come from different places than we might expect, from more utility type of places. It might not be the big social energy delivering us the love of the life, but rather our needs, our necessities. And Venus trine Pluto is an incredibly erotic energy. And trine Mercury, it will drive our minds to certain ways. And also Mercury will hold its trine all the way through until it exits Virgo. So, there is a powerful attraction at play here. So let's make sure that Neptune won't trick us with the attraction. If you're attracted, make sure that you know the limits. But if you have a marriage in your life already, make sure that that attraction doesn't get you a divorce.